If you don't mind it.
What are we doing?
Whatever you choose.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon, friends, Rotarians, and countrymen. Lend me your ears. We want to welcome Roger Bartley back from the Middle East. He's shaking his head. He's got a phone full of pictures if you want to see them. Out with your phones. In with your trash at the end of consuming your meal. And now we have the privilege of Mr. Tom Collette to lead us with his magnificent, melodious voice in a song he has chosen especially for the occasion.
Maybe you and I should sing together. We could be the Righteous Brothers.
Speak for yourself.
Okay. Let's sing My Country 'Tis of Thee. Ready? My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now our very own Gloria Bedell.
Thank you. This is going to be an enjoyable meeting today, I believe. And with that in mind, let's pray together. Here we are again, gathering together with a group of people filled with life stories that are actually quite amazing, and the experiences we have had and are still having. For decades now, Rotary is gathered as we are gathering today, and as we gather around the tables, we have another opportunity to connect through the stories we can tell, the ideas we can share. Out of these stories and these thoughts, we empower one another, and we cooperate as thoughts and stories become reality, and deep life can be experienced as we have seen here in our midst. Thank you for helping us all to grow, Father, to listen to one another and share stories with one another, to see great things happen just from regular meetings around round tables as we share life together. Bless our time together around the tables, I pray, in the name of the great storyteller. Amen.
Amen. Good one. Rotarians with guests, please remain standing.
Hello, everybody. Eric Atria. I've got repeated guests. Alex Erickson. He's a great, brilliant student at the University of Florida, and he keeps joining us here when he has time in his busy schedule. I also have Nathan Crabb, who worked for many years for the Gainesville Sun, now doing amazing things in our town. So thank you both for joining us.
And now for your further edification, Gregory Young will come forth for a very important series of announcements.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry I don't have an accent to share with you right now other than a southern Gainesville accent. So this is You may know Jay Nordquist, who is here somewhere, I think. Anyone that was part of the Rebuilding Together this weekend project, would you please stand up, be recognized? I know Jay's here. Helen? Thank you, thank you. So the pictures up here of our crew this weekend, we went into the Duval neighborhood to help a local homeowner stay in her home, keep her property up. There she is helping Helen to carry out some of the debris, which we brought 2 truckloads out to the Levita Brown dump. It was about getting the exterior, that's a group shot there, exterior of the property cleaned up so we could work on the property itself, the house itself. So it was a big task. We had, there's Alan and Ryan digging up plants that were planted too close to the house. So anyway, it was a great effort. We do it every year. We'll look forward to seeing you next year. And also we do in the fall a Habitat for Humanity project. So please join us for one of those. Thank you.
And now a moment you've all been waiting for. Our president-elect is to hear describe some ridiculous survey he did.
So first of all, big shout out to the 63 people that completed the survey online already. But that leaves like 2/3 of the membership still to fill it out. So if you have a cell phone and you've ever been at a rock concert or any kind of concert of any time, everybody grab their cell phone right now. I want to see them up in the air. Come on, I know you all got one. And if you got a flip phone, okay, you're excused if you have a flip phone. Now, Brendan, are you able to put the QR code up there, or are we going to have technical difficulties? We are. Good. There you go. So if you have not taken the survey and you're sitting in this room right now, this is the perfect opportunity to complete this 2-minute survey. I mean, it is so easy. It is so simple. It's hopefully non-controversial, but we're really looking for your input. Really trying to find out, why are you a Rotarian? Why are you here? Why do you come to meetings? Why don't you come to meetings? What would you like to see different in the club? So anyways, I encourage you all to scan the code. There is a sheet of paper on all the tables as well. So if you haven't done the survey, please do the survey. And a shout out to all those, including Tom Collette, who just did it this second here. So he gets extra credit for doing it at the meeting. All right, with that, thanks everybody. Really appreciate y'all.
I was just kidding about ridiculous. It's really a cool survey, and it's very short, so please do it. And happy birthday to you. Michael Pellet, bring your money up. Cornelia Holbrook, Stephen Kaufman, Mary Crane, Emery Orlando, Roger Brill, Patrick, uh-oh, I lost it. Thank you, sir. Patrick Dodds, Robert Page, Jason Hill, John Thomas. He'll keep the money over there. Troy Adams, Marion Colburn, Janice Legler, Jan Legler, Joe Cawthon, Marcia Kiner, Eric Parker, Don Davis. Happy birthday, guys. Now let's hit it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you. And now, the not quite yet lame duck president, John Thomas.
Well, happy Tuesday, my fellow Rotarians. I don't know about lame duck, maybe lame. We're kind of getting to the end there, but it's exciting to see everybody here, and thanks, Greg, for putting that together this weekend. It was a great thing that you guys did to help out that nice lady. Jay and the next year's crew is really putting the time and the work to make the next year's Rotary year really significant. So if you could fill out the survey, I think he'd really appreciate that. There's a lot of hard work going into it. Not a whole lot on the agenda on my part. We have the new member orientation upstairs at 1 p.m. So if you guys could meet us up there promptly, we'll get started with that. And I will ask Eric to come up to the podium to introduce today's speaker.
I've had a surprisingly great time booking the programs this year. I thought it would be really difficult, and it wasn't. Everybody wants to come talk with us and share with us, which is amazing, and it's a testament to all of you and all of us as a group. But I realized that I didn't book anybody who was, I think, terribly fun. And maybe you enjoyed some of them, and I'm glad. But today I was like, I got to get somebody fun. So the next person who's going to take the mic is like a brother to me. I've known him for 23 years. He's a fantastic musician, probably one of the best musicians in Gainesville. He's a multi-decade educator, and he hosts something in town that he's going to tell you about called Show and Tell, which is a storytelling event that really brings people in the community together. It's almost a support group. It's almost a stand-up comedy night. It's a combination of all sorts of things. And he's going to tell us about it here today. Collin Whitlock. Collin Whitlock. Collin Whitlock. I said your name wrong. I'm so sorry.
Thanks, Eric Otria. Thank you all so much for having me. I'm very excited about this. Before I do anything though, what gets me into storytelling is my curiosity, and I'm so curious. How did you get people who are having birthdays to pay you? Is that how it works? You guys have so much to teach me. I'm ready. All right. Well, Eric's right. Yeah, I'm a storyteller. I love this community. I think Gainesville specifically, although I think most communities have something beautiful to share, but Gainesville I think is unique. There is an atmosphere in this area that feels different than other places, and it inspires me to dig, to be curious, to ask people to share with us. And a lot of times people are hesitant to share. I can't tell you how many people will comment to me that, oh, well, I wouldn't have anything to say, or who would want to listen to my story, or something like that. And they just couldn't be more wrong. I think all of us have something really special to share. And generally, in my opinion, the weirder, the better. And I'm weird. And so I think maybe it's contagious a little bit. And we encourage others to kind of let loose at our events, Show and Tell. And so I thought maybe we would open up with a tradition we have at Show and Tell. It's weird. It's weird. Your game? You think so? Okay, good. It feels really good if you do it. So you kind of have to do it. You got to go for it. Okay, here we go. Okay. So I'm a teacher as well, as Eric mentioned. And one of the best things about teaching, it's a little corny, but the best things about teaching is that I learn way more than I teach. My kids teach me stuff left and right. And one of the best lessons I ever learned from one of my students his name was Rami. Rami taught me to stop holding in my emotions. Rami doesn't have a choice. Rami just lets it out. When Rami's upset, he just goes, ah, like that. If he's happy, he laughs real loud and raucously. I mean, there is just no filter there. And, in our society, sometimes that is not appreciated. Some people prefer us to kind of keep that stuff to ourselves, just kind of keep it in, especially if it's an unpleasant feeling, especially if it's a moan or a groan. And so Rami taught me that I feel, and most people that I share this with, feel so much better once we've done a little moan and groan. And so that's how we open up every Show and Tell. What I ask you to do is take a moment of silence. I ask you to take a moment to clear your mind. And if you are able to clear your mind, something is going to bubble up for you. And it might be a happy thing. It might be a thing you're excited about. It might be a thing you're dreading. It might be a thing that is a problem that you feel like you can't solve. You feel helpless about it. It's so frustrating. And what ends up happening is usually, in order for us to go on with our days, we kind of say like, well, I'll deal with that later. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm not going to let that stress me out right now. I'm going to move on with what I've got to do. Well, when we moan and groan, we do the opposite. We dive headfirst into that stress. We dive headfirst into the anticipation, the anxiety, the helplessness, whatever it is that we're feeling in that moment for whatever it is that bubbles up. And it doesn't have to be big. It could be like I stubbed my toe and I'm still really angry that, it hurts. It could be, I fried an egg this morning and I broke the yolk. It can be anything that's bothering you. Whatever it is that comes up, that's worth it, right? And so when that thing comes up, instead of pushing it away, we're going to bring it in for a really big hug. We're going to completely envelop ourselves in that feeling. And while we're doing this, I'm somehow magically going to know that you've done it. And I'm going to count down from 3. And when I count down from 3, together, you and I are going to moan and groan like a bunch of babies. Out loud, stomping your feet if you like, okay, flailing your arms if you need to. This is a moment for us to be weird together and just let it out. It's a little science experiment for those of you who have never done it before. My hypothesis is that if you gauge how you feel right now before we do it, and then you gauge how you feel after, improvement. That's my guess. All right, so here we go. I'm going to count up to 3, and you're going to have your moment of silence. You're going to find some quiet, and then that quiet's going to get disturbed by something stressing you out. And then I'm going to count down from 3, and we're going to make fools of ourselves in this beautiful museum. Are you ready? All right. 1, 2, 3. Now dive into it. Hold on to it. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Who feels better? Does anybody feel like, what have I just done? I feel great. As a matter of fact, sometimes I feel so good that we do a little hip hip hooray afterward. Hip hip! Hooray! All right, you are officially show and tellers, whether you like it or not. All right? And so now that we're kind of like eased up, we've honored some of the stress that we were feeling, some of the feelings that we were feeling, I can tell you a little bit about why I do this. I think storytelling, and I think you must as well, as I heard the introduction today, I thought, like, I found my people. You are all a story you tell yourself, but there's also the stories that others have about us. I first started thinking about stories when my grandfather passed away. At his funeral, I was talking to all of his friends, and for some reason, it was the first time it dawned on me that they knew somebody that I didn't, or they knew a version of a person that I didn't. And I suddenly was just overcome with this feeling like, I want to know the other stories. Does he have a journal? What do his friends think? I want to know this other side of him, because all I knew was Grandpa, and we portray ourselves to different people depending on what our expectations are of that relationship. But we are all multifaceted individuals. We have stories just coming out of us left and right, whether we like it or not. And I think that that's fascinating. I think that's really interesting. I don't think celebrity stories are necessarily any more valuable than any of ours. If anything, they're probably a little less true and a little less interesting than what's going on at the table that you're sitting at right now. Let's do a little experiment, as a matter of fact. I call this the pocket experiment. Pockets count as anything. Well, you know what a pocket is. You don't need me to tell you what a pocket is. Purses count, okay? But the experiment is, let's check our pockets and see if we've got a story in there. What have we got? You got one? Are you willing to tell us the story? Yes.
Their poop box was empty. There were a bunch of treats, but nothing other than that. And then went to the house, and I retraced my steps. I couldn't find it. There was a house that I had worked on yesterday, and I'd taken my delightful dog Pandy there with me. And as I got out of my car, I saw the cap that had busted off. And then I'm like, I was going to blame my wife for having lost it. And I'm like, oh, I ran over it. And so then I looked around, and I found the bags, a roll of them, and put them in my pocket. And while you're telling your story, I'm sitting here, and I'm realizing, God, this hurts my butt.
An extra little glimpse into a life of a Rotarian, right? Who can relate, by the way? You've been out walking your dog, all of a sudden you realize you don't have your bags, and you've got a bit of a dilemma on your hands. Some of us go home and find the bags and go back out. Some of us pretend like it never happened. We've all got lives to live, people, right? Thank you so much for getting us started. Let's hear it. Anybody else find a story in your pocket? What do we got?
Hi, I'm Susan, back home from an incredible journey for the month of May in my hometown, Chattanooga. And during that time, I rented a car to travel safely, and I would have my great niece and nieces and nephew in my car, so I needed safety. And I left my, could you call her vintage? My beautiful vintage 2003 Passat at home after she had just let go. She was done. We were finished. What to do? I came home, and my husband Richard and our neighbor who loves cars had taken step by step and brought her back to life. And so she's so beautiful. I'm so flipped out happy. And here's that key and that connection. Thanks, Richard Allen.
It's beautiful, right? Oh, we have another story. Excellent.
Oh,
let's hear it.
It's going to be Tom. I promise I won't sing. My pocket story is a story of a proud father of a United States Naval Academy midshipman who just finished his plebe freshman year. And on the 9th anniversary of his leukemia diagnosis, we were in Chattanooga, and he completed his first Ironman, half Ironman. So it's the story of a proud father.
Y'all are getting it. You're seeing it. This is it, right? We have a lot of storytelling events in town that are very well crafted. You know, the storytellers practice their stories for weeks leading up to the event. They know the beats of the story. They know the pauses. They know the inflections. They practice the jokes. They tweak them here and there, and it's a wonderful experience. It's one of my favorite events to go to in town. And yet, I'm so glad that there's a place for people to speak when they're inspired, to have somebody say something that just sparks that memory, or have something in their pocket that just makes them remember, like, oh, right, this really cool thing that happened to me, this really funny thing that happened to me, that maybe that story never would have been told if it wasn't prompted, if somebody didn't say, here's a microphone and here's a room full of people. We'd like to hear about it. It's the most satisfying, and not to tell a trade secret, but easiest job in the business. I say, I'd like to hear you tell me something, and then you come up here and entertain the crowd for me. and I reap all the benefits. It's beautiful. And I think what it's teaching me, and forgive me if this is something you've already figured out, but we, as a society, we seem to have at some point been twisted in the direction of caring about the stuff in our pockets, the stuff we carry, the stuff we buy, the stuff we have, and associating that with the happiness, right? It's the next thing that I can't wait till I get this one thing. Once I get that thing, it's gonna be so great. And we think about it and we anticipate it. And what happens? You know, you get that thing and you have this moment of true bliss. You have this moment of, it's just, I'm so excited. I got this thing that I've been waiting for so long. I can't wait. And then maybe a day later, it's like, well, what's the next thing that I need to get now, right? And it turns out that the thing is not what you were seeking. What you were seeking was that moment where you didn't want another thing. You've been wanting the thing, you got it, and you have this moment of like, I guess I don't need anything right now because I got this thing. But that doesn't last very long if you don't work at it. Because then you've got the thing, well, now what's the next thing that I'm going to think about getting? And it turns out, for me, and I think maybe you'll agree, that the stories that we have with our things, those are the things that really pay us back. Those are the things that really keep us going. And then we get to tell the stories. And we get to look at the thing and remember the story. That's the important part, the story part. And it's the same thing with people. The story of who we are, that we tell ourselves, the story that we tell other people, that's the thing that sticks. That's the thing that makes us live on in perpetuity, those stories and our memories. And I get to listen, and I get to encourage people to share them, and it's just the best. So try it out. Come out to Show and Tell, or go out to some of the other storytelling events in town. There's 5 or 6 of them that I know of, maybe even more. But it doesn't need to be an event. It can be at your table. It can be, at work. It can be sharing a car with somebody, or what's the word that you use? Carpooling with somebody. I don't know why I couldn't think of that right then. It can be anything, but the secret is asking for the stories and then getting to tell your own too. But it's the other stories that are great. So I find myself surrounded with stories now. I have a storytelling event at the Bull called Show and Tell. I do a podcast now in town called Here for the Moment. I just made a documentary recently, the story of the Alachua County Crisis Center. It took a little while for me to realize, like, oh, there's a common thread here. I think I must be into it. So that's what I bring to you today, and I couldn't thank you more for having me. Thank you. All right, bring it.
I see Richard, but I'm going to ask one real quick.
Please.
Have you done anything with StoryCorps, which NPR PBS has on?
Only listen. I have not contributed to StoryCorps. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Thanks. Yeah, great. Great. Everything you're doing is really great. Richard Allen.
Thank you.
So I have 2 questions. The first one is easy. How do we get signed up so that we know where these events are going to take place and the like?
Sure.
And then I'll let you answer that in a second. The second is, what's the story behind what was the story behind the first one of these that you organized?
Great question. Yeah, it was, so I had the idea for this a long time ago, and it actually, it was a big, Eric will confirm this for you. I'm one of those people who gets like really big ideas and says like, okay guys, let's just do this huge, almost impossible thing. And so as I age, I get a little bit wiser. And I figured out that this big idea could be broken into pieces. And so I wanted to document Gainesville's community. I wanted to know, I wanted there to be a document of our stories and the way that we interact together and the way we gather. And so one facet of that was to have a public event once a month or twice a month and have people just share, off the cuff, no preparation or anything like that. I wanted it to be as natural as possible. And one day I was at the Bowl, which is one of my favorite gathering places in Gainesville, and I was talking to one of my favorite business owners in Gainesville, Jacob, and I was telling him about this idea, and he said, well, let's do it here. And no hesitation, just like, we can do that. Let's just host it. Don't worry about the other parts of it. Let's just start there. And that was, I need that. I can come up with big ideas, but for me to go through with them, I need someone to sort of help me see that this is a good one. And so he did that for me. And then he and I met for a couple of breakfasts and planned some like really goofy little skits to do and things like that. And soon it turned out that we didn't need skits. We just needed to ask some questions, and then people would fill in and do the rest. And so that's how it got started. Yeah. And if you want to participate in Show and Tell or know about our events, the main way that I communicated is through Instagram and Facebook. I put posts up under my handle Show and Tell Neighborhood. If you're not a social media person, first of all, congratulations. And second, we stick to a schedule. We gather at the Bowl the second Tuesday of every month, starting at 7 p.m. And it's free, and it's goofy. Yeah.
Collin. So I've known Collin for many years, and the way I got introduced to him and Eric, before Eric walked into our life here, was through a band that is, I'm going to call it the Shoddy Beatles.
Sure, yeah.
The O should be replaced with an I for the appropriate name. An amazing band. I think I started watching you guys back in, it's got to be 16 or 17 years ago now. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was curious what your story is about how the Shoddy Beatles came to be.
Well, Eric and I, when we were in college in the early 2000s, Eric was in law school, I was an undergrad, we had friendly rival bands. His band was Morning Bell, although when they first started, they were called Future Feels Good. And I had a band called Maxwell Edison, which is a Beatles reference. And that, I think, was the first opening for us to talk, because Eric and his brother Travis are both huge Beatles fans. And so we would play shows, sometimes together, sometimes competing at different venues. And we liked each other, so we decided to start teaming up on shows. And what was really nice about playing with Eric's band is that they didn't like to stay up late. They were kind of, crotchety that way. And so they wanted to headline a show, but they wanted to do the middle slot, and we wanted to have the headlining slot, which was the last one. So it just worked out really well. They got to pack up their stuff and go to bed early, and we got to take the rest of the leftovers and go on into the night. So we sparked a friendship, and then eventually, a couple years later, the drummer in my band, Jake, he and I were both big Beatles fans, Travis and Eric, big Beatles fans, and we just decided to throw together this band, which sounded pretty shoddy at first. And that was it. That's how we started doing it. I think we all grew up singing the songs in the mirror, wishing that it was us at Shea Stadium. And so the idea of putting together a band to perform here in Gainesville was like the next best thing. So the dream continues. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to confirm a couple things. Number one, his band was very popular. Very popular. They could play and sell a venue out by themselves, so we would like to play with them because we wanted it to look like we brought those people out. I don't know if I've ever told him that. We didn't bring as many people out as they did. Number two, his big ideas, he has oftentimes suggested that we book an orchestra to play a show with, which if you're a live musician, that's a preposterous idea. And we've never done it. But my question...
Travis did it.
That's true. My brother did do that. My question for you is this. I was able to go to the first season, and I remember there being a couple weird nights, like tense nights, where somebody we didn't know walked in and started sharing a story that as they shared more and more, got a little bit more tense and scary. I remember one night, I forget, I'm trying to remember it, but I remember when the guy finished, he says, does anybody have any questions? And I said, do you have a knife? Like it was something where were you ever scared? by anybody sharing at a show and tell?
That's a good question. I have, when I do this, I had to come to terms with the fact that I have no control over what stories are going to be told, and that's kind of the buy-in for me. Is that I don't want to orchestrate anything for the show other than my input, and so I am opening the door to the bull to the community. So what they have to share and what is brought up is what I guess is supposed to happen. And so there have been a handful of times where there's like a story that doesn't quite go with the rest, right? The general vibe of the room. And there's probably been 2 times where I was tempted to maybe cut somebody short, or at least I might get to a point where I'm like, oh boy, I wonder how this is gonna go over. Ugh. And I have to say that I am constantly delighted at the way our community supports people who are coming to share something uncomfortable. It turns out that when you share that thing that feels like you could never share, that you could never tell another person, in the right company, it can be the door that opens you up to the next thing. I learned some really important concepts in the last couple of years, one of which being that, like, in order for us to move on from a place, we have to arrive there first. We have to be in that place. And then once we name it, and once we speak it and share it, that's what paves the way for the next step away from it, or in a different direction. So there needs to be places for people to share uncomfortable things. And so Eric's example prompted me to open up every show with, you are welcome to share anything as long as it is kind and as long as it doesn't intend to hurt another person. And that includes, you can share things when you've been hurt, but if you're sharing something in order to hurt a person, that's not welcome at the show. So yeah, all right.
Hi, Collin.
Hello.
I'm your friend, Eric.
Yes.
So I love sharing my story a lot in the last 25 years, which is, my story is kind of traumatic. And so sometimes it's good, but it brings back memory.
Sure.
Sometimes I let that you did out, so that's feel good. And then more importantly, I'm into reality storytelling.
Yes.
Not to belittle the fiction storytelling, but my question is, like, sharing with an idea that I hope someone could learn from me, and I do the same thing. But in today's world, how you do it when you become vulnerable, then the professional way of doing things say, no, you can't be vulnerable. But when you become vulnerable is when you relate to the people. So how do you balance that? And I tell kids all the time that if I'm sharing with you, please do not just go on Instagram and make fun of me. Sure. But take the thing. The reason I truly love sharing, one time I was sharing in Michigan, because I came here as one of the lost boys of Sudan, and there are 2 sides of this story. Some of my friends, because of what we have witnessed, they shut down. Yeah. Don't even mention Sudan, and they would go crazy. And part of me, I'm like, okay, how someone that never experienced this traumatic background would know? Should I just say, why don't you know? And they really don't know. And so I was sharing, and this lady, a girl, a 15-year-old girl, came to me, was sobbing, was like really crying, and hugged me and was like, you saved my life. And it was a little bit creepy because you don't know who this person. And apparently she, at that day or night, she wanted to commit a suicide. And she came scrolling. I did a TED Talk at UF, actually, 12 years ago. I call it Imagine a Journey. So she watched that, and she said, because I watched that, I'm like, I didn't have to walk 2,000 miles. The thing that I want to kill myself, we're not really as bad as yours. And that is what gave me goosebumps. And that's what I'm happy. So anyway, that was my question. But I'm going to stop there. But that's why I share sometimes. You never know who you're going to impact, like that girl. But also, how do you balance when you are being vulnerable and while keeping professional face or mask?
For sure. That's a great question. And I'm not sure if there's like a definite answer to you, but I can tell you what I do, or at least the way I have to think about it. I used to struggle very much with how people might perceive me. I put in so much work to present who I wanted people to see me as. And that's kind of what I interpret as when you're talking about being professional and also being vulnerable. There's a stigma with the professional atmosphere where you have to be a certain way. There are certain things that aren't done in a professional atmosphere. And there are atmospheres like that all over the place that we don't know about. We walk into and they're invisible, but there are expectations within that circle that nobody told us about. And that was just so stressful for me to think about, because I thought, well, what if somebody thinks of me this way then? And what if somebody sees this? And I find very often when I find myself in a quandary like that, where there doesn't seem to be an answer, I end up diving the opposite direction. Oh, no one will ever see me the way that I want to be seen, right? Nobody in here, every single person in this room is built with one experience after another. The person you are and the perception that you have has grown out of your experiences and the connections that you have. And so one person's idea of the beach might be colored by fun times with your family and surfing and friends and excitement. Another person's idea of the beach might be colored by your experience almost drowning and getting sunburnt or being, who knows what happened, right? And so when I say, oh, let's all go to the beach, I can't control your perception of what that is. Well, all the things that make me who I am, I can't control how you interpret it. I can only show you as honest a version of it as I can. And so I find being vulnerable to be the strongest thing that I have in myself. And if in a professional setting somebody decides that that's unprofessional, then I guess I don't need to be in that profession, right? Or that's their weakness, not mine. And so I find you sharing your story and facing those difficult memories and those traumas, I find that to be a strength that is worth sharing as often as possible, whenever you can. And then when you can't, you take a break and go back to it next time. Yeah.
It's hard to follow that question and that response. That's moving. I wanted to ask you what maybe your most memorable experience was teaching, but I had a story for you first. Last night my daughter told me she teaches eighth graders American history. And so grades were turned in last Thursday, and they have 2 days of class, and then they have graduation. And so the assignment was for them to work in a small group and design what they think they would like a country to be. She had 2 questions. The first was, why are we celebrating 250? This is American history. So she took and put the dates on the board and then made them subtract. Well, what was 1776? So this is after a whole year of American history. But the best question they asked her was, what is a democracy?
Yeah. What did she say? That's what I want to know.
I asked her that. I said, well, did you ask him what he thought it was? She said, I forgot to do that. She said, I said, a democracy is where we vote.
Yeah. Okay, good. It's so hard to, my experience teaching is such a blend of both sides of the spectrum, of frustration and fear, but also hope and encouragement. So some of the teaching moments that stand out the most for me are usually when I see a student recognize that a part of them that they thought they needed to hide needs to come out instead. And what I've tried to share with is now I'm a private tutor. I work with families and I also consult teachers. And the main message that I give to them is there's this misconception in education, and there's a marquee somewhere in town that illustrates the misconception, unfortunately. It's, the Marquis says, it takes a big heart to shape little minds. And it's a very cute saying, and I think it's meant kindly, but I do not think our job as teachers is to shape minds. I believe that our job as a teacher is to help kids shed the filters that have been put on them. We start off beautiful and different, and over time, when we get met with distaste, met with confusion, met with negativity, we learn like, oh, I guess I need to cover that part up. I guess I got to hide that part. And that's a safety thing. It's very human to protect yourself that way. Our job as teachers is to make students start feeling safe enough to peel those filters back again and to try to get as close as we can to that pure version of ourselves so that we can share it and find the people who want to be connected to it. And so my other example that I use, I teach piano as well, and I always start off by playing an individual note to the kid, and I'll say like, do you think this note is pretty? And she'll say, yes, yeah, I think that's very pretty. And then I'll play another note. Is that pretty? Yeah, that's a really pretty note. Is there anything wrong with these individual notes? No, nothing wrong. And then I'll play two of them right next to each other. I know there's a piano over there. Somebody wants to play two notes right next to each other right now. It's okay, you don't have to. So if you play two notes right next to each other, it's not very pretty. It's dissonant. It's ugly, right? And so that's my explanation. Some notes don't always go well together. And that doesn't mean there's something wrong with that note or the other note. It just means that when they're put together, they're not as pretty. Sometimes you can add other notes and it makes them sound better. But the individual notes are fine. So find the notes that go well with you and make some chords and then find your people. And that's the goal of the teacher, I think. For me.
You're going to take up all my time for a compliment. I can't leave here today without pointing out that Collin has produced a some 40-minute documentary about the Alachua County Crisis Center, suicide prevention, people talking about a lot of really serious things and yet coming away together, finding a way to laugh together. It was presented at the Matheson History Museum last week. A couple of us saw that. Great job. You're a lot more than just a stand-up comedian, so I appreciate that.
Thanks very much.
And the last thing I want to say regarding these birthday fines for $1,
yeah.
That's nothing. In the Seoul Rotary Club where I started out, you had to pay your age.
I'm going to start incorporating some of this into my friend circles. Yeah. Thank you all so much for having me here today. This has been wonderful.
Collin, thank you so much for speaking to us. In honor of you speaking to us today, we're going to make a donation to the Rotary Foundation in your name. Thank you so much. And if you want to share real quickly your favorite Eric Otria story with us, like in 1 minute, we got like a 30-second spot for you.
Boy, 30 seconds is just not enough for an Otria story. What should be my favorite story about you? Gosh. Right. Eric recently, we'll go out for lunch every once in a while, and I love getting my downloads of like what's going on in Eric's life. You all know Eric as being an incredibly generous and also like gets things done kind of guy. And he was telling me about, I don't know why I thought of this, but he was telling me about his neighbor. His neighbor's fence was broken for like a year, and I know he knew that the neighbor wanted to fix it but couldn't get around to it, and he wanted the neighbor to fix it. And so one day he and his son Daniel went out and bought the wood for it and went to the fence and fixed the fence. And the next day, I guess the neighbor was upset that Eric fixed the fence. And Eric was like, what's the deal? Like you can't do anything nice in this town. And I guess I tried to think of why the neighbor would be upset about it, but if you want to come fix my fence any day you want, that's no problem. So, yeah.
Now we know who to call for fences. All right, so next week's program is going to be State Attorney Brian Kramer. So in the immortal words of Billy Strings, only do one crime at a time, my friends. Reading Safari winner this week is 134504. 134504. And stand up and say it with me. The four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will build goodwill and better friendship? Will be beneficial to all concerned? We are adjourned. All new members upstairs.